The Transportation Secretary of the United States is one of those stars out on the hustings here, talking the good talk. Pete Buttigieg, Secretary, good to have you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Secretary, let me ask you a little bit about the president's view. He says the economy is in better shape, but unfortunately, it's not in the shape that a lot of people seem to agree. In other words, he is crowing about an economy they don't see why he's crowing about. What do you make of that?
Well, look, I think a lot of energy out there is going into talking down the economy. The president's job is to point out what's going right and, just as importantly, what we're seeking to do for the future to continue lowering costs and growing the economy. The numbers, obviously, are remarkable. All-time record high in terms of job creation under one president. Lowest unemployment, certainly the longest it's been below 4% since before I was born. All-time record high on the stock market, too. But, you know, not every American is the median American. Just because I can point to statistics saying that, on average, wages have gone up faster than prices doesn't mean every single American is seeing that at home. And that's part of why you're going to continue to see a relentless focus on lowering those everyday costs. The president adamant about the $35 cap on insulin, which he was able to get for seniors. He could get it for the entire country if just a handful of congressional Republicans would cooperate. He renewed that call last night, in addition to issuing his call for there to be an out-of-pocket cap on prescription drugs.
But wouldn't they need more immediate help at things like the grocery store and getting cheaper cereal prices, cheaper a host of prices, because that's where people are feeling the pain. And this is welcome news, like you say, on prescription and related drugs, but they're hurting right every day they go to the supermarket.
Well, look, inflation is down. Eggs are cheaper than they were a year ago. So are airline tickets and a lot of things in between. But look, we know there's more work to do in the fight against inflation. The whole world faced enormous inflation after COVID, although the U.S. has the lowest rate of inflation of any of the G7 countries. And I believe that has a lot to do with the president's leadership. But, nobody's spiking the ball. Nobody's saying our work is done.
You don't think that has a lot more to do with the Federal Reserve hiking interest rates and really bringing that under control?
Yeah, we're not the only country with central banking and monetary policy. What I would say is a lot of things, including, by the way, I know that we're just one piece of this, but I would say that the work we did to try to unstick supply chains played a role, because we know that shipping costs were one of the things that did put upward pressure on prices in the late part of 2021 and early 2022. So, look, my point is there's a lot of credit to go around for the many good results that have happened, and yet we know there needs to be more. And the president laid out an agenda that's much more focused on, as he always likes to say, an economy that grows from the bottom up and the middle out. He believes strongly that a tax code where the tax rate paid by a billionaire or a corporation being less than a firefighter just isn't right. He called on Congress to change that and is going to continue taking steps that I think would continue down the path of deficit reduction that he has achieved in his presidency while growing the economy and trying to make everyday life more affordable for people, partly by keeping prices under control and partly by growing wages.
Debt has grown under this president. By the way, it's grown under the last one, the one before him. So no one's making real progress here.
Well, but again, more meaningful deficit reduction than we've seen in quite a while. Yeah, you're right. More work to be done, which is why he put out look, you're never supposed to even use the T word, tax, in an address, but he pointed out a way to do it that would not touch anybody making less than $400,000 a year, which is something that most Americans, if not most members of Congress, support.
Well, that's not necessarily brave to talk about going after billionaires and corporations. I think the issue, though, gets back to why can't we just
but if it isn't, why won't any congressional Republicans cooperate with him, right?
Well, no, you're quite right about that, but there's no cooperation on anything. There's no cooperation on anything, which brings me to my bigger point here, that when you step back and say that, things are improving and getting better, and you're quite right, we're well off our highest levels when inflation was running at about a 9% rate, now close to 3%. But the fact of the matter is, for a lot of people who buy general groceries and a lot of their everyday life items, they're still stuck, and they think the administration is trying to say you're imagining it. What do you tell them?
Look, anybody who has been in a marriage or a relationship knows that you never approach somebody by saying that you're wrong to be feeling what you're feeling. Americans are having many different economic experiences, their family budgets, their personal economic situation. But what we are seeing is each passing month, more and more encouraging news about inflation coming under control, but just as importantly, wages going up. And, for the first time in a long time, it's been true on a sustained basis that just about anybody who wants a job can get a job. Now, we're working to make sure those are good paying jobs, especially the ones we're creating with infrastructure and manufacturing. We're really excited about these often six-figure jobs, whether you got a college degree or not, that we're creating through the work on roads and bridges, the semiconductor manufacturing that the president has worked to bring back on our shores. We're by no means saying mission accomplished. What we're saying is we're proud of the progress we've made on the president's watch and pushing hard to make even more.
I could go into that a little bit more, but Secretary, I did want to talk, as you are the Transportation Secretary of the United States, we've had a number of scary airline incidents. This United Airlines flight that skidded off a Houston airport runway. You had another one that lost a wheel as it was, taking off. Earlier, of course, the Alaska Air flight with the door came off. Could have been a lot serious had this happened much higher altitude. Do you think flying is safe today? A lot of people see these incidents, isolated though they are, but they are hearing them more frequently.
It remains the case that flying is by far the safest way to travel in America, but that doesn't mean that we're satisfied with the way things are. It's going to take a lot of work to keep it that way. It's why the FAA has conducted a deep dive into practices at Boeing, met with senior officials, pointed out a number of concerns around their quality control, and gave them 90 days to put forward a comprehensive plan on how to get a handle on that, and will not permit Boeing to increase their production rate until they demonstrate that to the FAA's satisfaction. Safety is not a destination, it's a journey, and maintaining the remarkable civilizational achievement that flying in a tube through the air at nearly the speed of sound is by far the safest way to travel in America is not something that can happen if we ever rest, which is why we're going to continue pushing, whether it's on Boeing, whether it's on our own work, funding the FAA properly to move into the future. But not just as Secretary of Transportation, but as a frequent flyer who gets on an airliner every few days, I see the extraordinary work that goes into that safety record. And by the way, I only wish that we could have a comparable safety standard when it comes to roadway safety, where we lose more than 100 Americans a day. We're finally seeing those rates start to move in the right direction, but still a ton of work to do there as well.
You mentioned Boeing, and the NTSB has been very critical of Boeing for its lack of cooperation in the 737 MAX 9 probe. Are you disappointed in Boeing?
Definitely concerned about what we've seen. I've communicated that directly to the CEO of Boeing, and I think really the proof is going to be in how they respond. I think that they need to demonstrate better results and really need to demonstrate that they have achieved a culture that puts safety first. Production is important, pace is important, them being successful as a company is important, but none of that matters if you don't have 100%, 1,000% assurances around safety.
Secretary, very good seeing you again.